good morning, and my name is Khalid Taimur Akram, and I'm the Executive Director for Center for Global and Strategic Studies. We are today very honored to have His Excellency Vladimir Norov with us. Mr. Vladimir Norov is now the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and he has remained before this as the Foreign Minister of Uzbekistan. Mr. Vladimir Norov is a very well-known figure of this region and a very renowned diplomat. Sir, we welcome you to this interview.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Khalid Taimur Akram. Thank you for organizing today's interview, and I would also like to congratulate the Center for Global and Strategic Studies for the successful implementation of the webinar on the integrated development on July. To answer your questions, the main task of the SCO Secretary General is to coordinate and implement the decisions of state head of our main bodies at the Council of Heads of State, the Council of Heads of Government, the Council of Foreign Ministers, and other mechanism of organization. Since assuming office in January last year, along with my colleagues, have been taking steps for the implementation of the SCO basic documents and the important agreements concluded by the heads of state, the member countries. Also, last year, in close coordination with the Kyrgyz side, the SCO summit clear algorithms of action to all working mechanisms and permanent SCO bodies were adopted. More than 22 documents in this summit. The SCO has facilitated the expansion of anti-terrorist exercises involving law enforcement and the armed forces of member states. I know the active participation of Pakistani side in SCO exercises and activities aimed at maintaining stability in the organization's area of responsibility. It has become global and diversified, as well as became possible to establish close ties with the relevant UN structures in the fighting against drug trafficking and with other international organizations, for example, ASEAN and OECE and the Paris Pact Initiative. Moreover, we look forward to continue to deepen our cooperation with our Pakistani counterparts regarding trade economic cooperation. I would like to say that in October last year, a meeting of the Council of Heads of Government of SCO member states was held in Tashkent under the chair of Uzbek side to further expand economic cooperation and improve the investment climate based on mutual benefit and equality, and resulted in the approval of an program of multilateral trade and economy. SCO member states will develop and start implementing short-term promising programs and projects using modern, innovative and green technologies until 2025. For medium term, it was planned to transform national economies by developing rules on trade and investment within the SCO, promoting the service and e-commerce industry, including simplifying trade procedures. Whereas for the long term, the goal is to increase competitiveness and ensure the digital transformation of the national economies of the SCO countries by introducing digital technologies and creating favorable conditions for gradual implementation of free movement of countries. During the meeting in Tashkent, considering global and regional process, supported the initiative of the Secretariat to establish a consortium of think tanks on economic issues, which would have to serve as a platform for studying and comprehensive analysis of this year, first session of this consortium should be organized in this year. It will also approved, and a memorandum was signed between the customs services of SCO member states on the mutual integration of national in trade, economic, transport and logistic infrastructure, scientific and technological innovation and information communication space, including the development of small and medium-sized businesses. Today, all SCO countries are facing the pandemic that has become a major challenge for the entire world community, but at the same time, the efficient, rapid transfer to the online mode of a large part of state and business life, educational services have shown how powerful technological human resources of the ICT sector has increased during the epidemic. COVID-19 created the full digitalization, also created many jobs with a new business format, has become a new incentive to stabilize growing unemployment. The pandemic has made it clear that digitalization and ICT are essential to the continued functioning of the economy and society. At the SCO summit in Bishkek in June last year, the SCO leaders approved the SCO member states' concept for digitalization and information and communication technology to jointly develop the region's digital economies through the exchange of experience, human capital development, and joint economic and research projects. Many of these challenges faced by the SCO countries in the digital economy and e-commerce are also in ASEAN region. At the same time, consideration should be given to the creation of common digital trading platform in the SCO and ASEAN space. The countries of the SCO and ASEAN regions are in many ways in similar stages of digitalization of their economies, which opens opportunities for cooperation, growth and prosperity. In this regard, the SCO Secretariat has prepared the concept of holding the SCO ASEAN conference to jointly discuss the challenges and prospects for scientific and technological cooperation in the digital economy and e-commerce between the two largest regional organizations. And most SCO member states supported this initiative. We planned to organize this conference in Chunxin in August of this year, but the pandemic changed our plans for this year, but we will do it, I think, next year. The most common problem that some SCO countries and Central Asia states in particular face in the of logistic infrastructure, trained human capital, as well as shortcomings in the field of legal regulation, cross-border financial transaction, and custom clearance. In this regard, we are working with specialized large companies in e-commerce. For instance, we are actively working with Alibaba Group, holding joint events with the participation of young entrepreneurs and talented persons from SCO countries, in which representatives from Pakistan are also very active. I believe that we have also managed to give new content to cooperation in the cultural and humanitarian sphere, which is designed through cultural and civilization prism to acquaint the peoples of our countries with history, culture, heritage, and educational trends. The Secretariat initiated a comprehensive project called 8 Wonders of the SCO, aimed at unlocking the cultural and tourism potential of SCO countries. On a high emotional note, there was a celebration of Nowruz, spring holiday, day of yoga and Tai Chi, exhibition of paintings and international marathons of the SCO. The Secretariat also placed importance on media cooperation, gender issues in news youth policy. Last year, the media forum, the ACO Women's Forum, was held, in which representative of Pakistan also took an active part. Now we're preparing special draft of regulation for organizing Women's Forum, and we're now studying the experience of ASEAN in gender equality policy and cooperation in this field, and now we will propose to our member states to develop as legal rule base and the same time of mechanism of multilateral cooperation in this important area of our activities. A few words about our international connection. During this period, I have held, as I told previously, more than 100 meetings with the presidents, prime ministers, foreign ministers, and leads of international organizations, including UN, OSCE, ASEAN, CIS, CSTO, heads of diplomatic mission of the ASEAN, the European Union, and the League of Arab States in Beijing, and others. It also reflects the SCO's growing attention to the organization regional and global activities. And speaking about the role of SCO member states, I would like to emphasize that our common denominator is a principle of consensus, which makes all countries equal in making important decisions, and this demonstrates in turn the openness, the democratic sense of the organization, and the importance of multilateral diplomacy. So such principles of organizing of our organization make our organization very attractive for many countries and regional and international organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. This is indeed a very unique opportunity for the audience in Pakistan to listen to the views of directly to the Secretary General of the SCO. And let me, sir, also tell you that ever since Pakistan has become member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, this is the first ever interview of the Secretary General of SCO, which is being telecasted in Pakistan, and we are really thankful to you for your time. Now coming over to my second question, sir. The SCO has the potential and capability to find solutions of the emerging security challenges by engaging its member via dialogue in the region and beyond. How do you think that Shanghai Cooperation Organization can bring together member states on a single platform to discuss current common security challenges, particularly the non-traditional security threats?
Thank you. You have very accurately noted the broad potential of the ACO. It is particularly important to note, however, that the organization is not a military and political bloc against third states or international organizations. On the contrary, the emergence of such a union as SCO in 2001 marked a transition to qualitatively new type of international and interstate relations based on non-confrontational, more democratic and fairer rules of the game. The most comprehensive and distinct principles of SCO activity are expressed in the concept of the Shanghai spirit, the main content of which is mutual trust and benefit, equality, mutual consultation, respect for the diversity of cultures and civilization, the desire for joint development. That is all those elements that should underline the emerging polycentric world order. The decision to create the SCO came at a time when the world was facing security challenges. That is why under the ACO Charter, the main objectives of the organization included joint counter-terrorism, separatism and extremism, combating drug and arms trafficking and other transnational criminal activities. The improvement of multilateral cooperation in these areas has been accompanied by the systematic development of the relevant regulatory framework. Today, the ACO has adopted almost 700 documents covering regional security issues. Undoubtedly, our countries continue to work together to consider the emergence of new risks, especially in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, During the upcoming SCO summit in St. Petersburg, which is scheduled for next fall, it is planned to approve a package of documents aimed at developing agreed approaches and practical measures to counter modern challenges and threats. One of the sources of the terrorist threats to the SCO space remains the territory of neighboring Afghanistan. I would like to emphasize the non-alternative resolution of the conflict in Afghanistan through political and diplomatic means, through the implementation of the peace process by the Afghans and under the leadership of the Afghans themselves. We consider it important to involve Afghanistan in the process of cooperation between the SCO and CIS member states in the field of transport. We should not forget that Afghanistan is observer state in SCO. At the same time, Hayraton, Mazar-e Sharif, the railway, and the planned Mazar-e Sharif Herat and Mazar-e Sharif Peshawar routes will form a new north-south transit corridor with access to Iranian, Pakistani, Indian railways to the ports of Charbagh and Gwadar. So this can become another factor of stabilizing the political situation and economic development of this country in full accordance with the provisions of the roadmap of SCO Afghanistan Contact Group adopted in the SCO summit in Bishkek last year. Developing this transport route to rise to now Afghanistan more than 50. Continue to work with our Afghan partners through the SCO Afghanistan Contact Group. We plan to hold its next meeting this year at the first opportunity. At the same time, the focus of the mechanism will be on the implementation of a joint roadmap aimed at strengthening coordination with officials in Kabul in the field of counterterrorism activities and combating drug trafficking. In this regard, it is impossible not to note the effective work of the regional anti-terrorist structure of the SCO, with the coordinating role of which over the last year uncovered 288 terrorist crimes, suppressed the activities of 78 clandestine terrorist cells, blocked 24 channels of terrorist financing, restricted access to more than 23,000 internet resources containing terrorist and extremist materials. But we know today it is very important to fight against spreading such information in the time when hundreds of millions of our young people now in isolation in the home and more involved in the internet and the social networks and so on. That's why it is important to restrict access of our young people to this information. It is also worth highlighting the sustainable cooperation of the SCO member states on the anti-drug track as a result of the twofold joint anti-drug operation with WEB. In just 1 week, more than 100 tons of narcotics, drugs, and psychotropic substance was seized. In this regard, we must closely monitor and address new challenges, particularly in terms of the use of new information and communication technologies, including the internet, to detect the drug businesses. I'm referring to the dangers of using it to promote and distributing drugs, and we are in March of this year with the UN ODC organized in Wien special events with the participations the head of agencies, anti-drug agencies of our member states, observer and partner state, and Pakistan head of agency participated very actively, and items were directed for fighting against using darknet for spreading drugs among these young people. In the context of coronavirus, we must also take proactive in preventing measures to prevent the transit of drugs through new routes and distribution channels. In general, I believe that the SCO has demonstrated to the world an effective mechanism of cooperation in which there is no place for closed, exclusive clubs and dividing lines, and multilateralism and cooperation are seen as the only way to protect themselves from global threats and ensure stable development and well-being for all. It is no coincidence that we use the term SCO family, which applies not only to member states, but also to our observers and dialogue partners. Thanks to its openness and attractive agenda, the organization has united most of the territory and population of Eurasia, consistently forming a united, consolidated front to combat cross-border challenges and threats. And this important merit of SCO has been repeatedly noted at the highest international level, including by UN Secretary General anticipated in the events organized in UN headquarters. And this year, in the letter, Mr. Guterres sent it to me, especially outlined the important role of our organization. Thank you. It is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very detailed over to our next bit's enlargement in the context of the current two divergent trends of globalization and regionalization. So, what strategy do you think Shanghai Cooperation Organization should and regionalizing trends in the contemporary world in order to expand?
Thank you. With the accession of India and Pakistan, the SCO became transcontinental. And in terms of total potential, the total population, territory, reserves of natural resources, the GDP produced, became the largest organization, not only in the region, but also in the world, according to preliminary estimates. The total GDP of the SCO member countries over the past year amounted to 22.5% of global figure. This figure is expected to reach 35–40% of the world's runway by 2030. The SCO has real opportunities to become one of the world's economic centers in the near future. Changes in the international sphere are constantly and non-stop, but the next decades will likely to be a special period. The foundation of a new world order must be determined by their end. How will global governance work? A fierce battle has already begun over these issues. It is clear that the epicenter of this ongoing struggle is and will be the Eurasian continent. The SCO member states from the core of the Eurasian continent, and their relation and interaction will determine the further vector of development of this vast territory for years to come. By and large, the SCO experience can be considered the first experience in the history of building a truly equal partnership of diverse, multi-scale states with a different economic and political potential, cultural and civilizational features. Our task is to balance the development of the organization as much possible to effectively realize the cumulative potential. The current stage of the SCO development is characterized by the expansion of the SCO agenda. Head of state regularly discuss not only the regional but also the global level of problems, and the SCO documents increasingly reflect the themes of countering global challenges and threats that require the development of collective and effective approaches of the world community. The SCO acts as a reliable platform for fruitful cooperation in the interest of forming a polycentric world order that ensures the rule of international law, especially the UN Charter, equal, joint, indivisible, comprehensive and sustainable security, the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, respect for the people's independent choice of their political and socio-economic development, and ensuring the interests of each and every state. At the summit in Bishkek last year by our leaders, it was confirmed once more that the SCO as an influential and responsible participant in the modern system of international relations will increase its participation in efforts to ensure peace and security, consistently advocating the settlement of international and regional conflicts exclusively by peaceful political and diplomatic means, respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference in the internal affairs of the state, rejecting the use of force or threat of its application. In the same context, the initiative to start consultation of the European Union, SCO, and ASEAN countries on the formation of new approaches to network cooperation of regional organizations that would take into account of the interests of all states in the region based on the principles of equality and would avoid counterproductive competition between different integration initiatives in Euro-Asian space is also relevant. As you know, the Russian side proposed the creation on this Euro-Asian continent, the big Euro-Asian partnership, which could conclude the European Union, Euro-Asian Economic Union, SCO, and ASEAN. At the same time, the member states confirmed their firm support for the efforts of the United Nations as a universal multilateral organization in maintaining international peace and security, promoting global development, and promoting and protecting human rights. They are in favor of strengthening the key role of the UN Security Council, which in accordance with the UN Charter has a primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security. Despite the various discussions in the world, I believe that globalization is the main trend of peace and global cooperation is the universal aspiration of humankind, including the peoples of the SCO countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the detailed answer, and I'm sure that the SCO countries will work together and your vision will succeed. Now, coming over to our next question, sir. In the 21st century, we have seen that the regional organizations are expanding their scope and becoming more multifunctional, sir. What new potential areas do you think should be incorporated in the realm of the SCO to work in the future?
Thank you very much for the question. The SCO strives to go in the same rhythm with the new trends in the world. Determining the strategy, prospects, and priorities for the development of multidisciplinary cooperation is the prerogative of Council of Heads of SCO Union. At each the SCO summit, decisions are made to determine the new forward-looking direction for the organization by our leaders. The SCO space is a huge opportunity, as I said previously, for trade and economic cooperation and the implementation of joint projects. Work is currently underway to agree on a draft action plan for the implementation of the SCO development strategy until 2025, which already reflects more than 150 practical measures in the areas of regional security, deepening trade and economic dialogue, cultural and humanitarian ties, and the development of international contacts of the SCO. To expand the mutual volume of mutual trade, it is necessary to intensify cooperation in the field of transport. At the same time, joint efforts should be focused on developing the infrastructure of multimodal logistics centers, speeding up the process of harmonization of transport standards and phytosanitary regulation. As I said, in the context of the current and information and communication technology, not only in with accessible and high-quality health services, telemedicine overcomes geographical barriers and significantly increase the access of the population to health service. The SCO's cooperation in this area will open access to relevant information and exchange of experience for SCO medical professionals in the field of medicine. Distance learning should also be one of the promising areas of cooperation within the SCO. The coronavirus pandemic has shown effectiveness of traditional medicine in treating patients. In this regard, it is very important to establish multilateral cooperation in the field of traditional medicine within the SCO, because each of the member countries has rich historical experience in this field of medicine. The online learning format provides a wide range of opportunities and perspectives for changing and improving educational system, for which a critical situation creates a forced environment. Currently, in the coordination of conditions of widespread use of the internet by most countries of the world in the social and economic life, as cyber attacks on the internet resources of individuals and legal entities has increased significantly. According to the focus of the Davos World Economic Forum, in 2021, the damage from cyber attacks will amount of $6 trillion. This year, it is predicted more than $3 trillion. In this regard, we need to encourage more active cooperation in the fight against cybercrime by strengthening the legal framework and mechanisms for coordinating the common efforts of the organization member countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And sir, looking at the economic prospects of Shanghai Cooperation Organization and its member state and China's Belt and Road Initiative together, we see that SCO is becoming a vital platform for better implementation of the Belt and Road program of China. SCO is a regional organization with large population and great market potential. How do you foresee the new era when SCO meets the Belt and Road Initiative program of China for a win-win cooperation in the region and beyond?
Thank you very much. The SCO countries cannot stay away from large-scale economic initiative unfolding in the Eurasian region. Accordingly, many member states have taken steps to align their national development strategies with the Belt and Road concept and are in favor of harnessing the potential of the region's countries and for the formation of a broad, open, mutually beneficial and equitable partnership in the SCO space. The main routes of the Silk Road economic belt lead from China through Central Asia, Russia to Europe, as well as from China through Central and West Asia to the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean Sea. Besides cooperation to pair this initiative with the regional economic development strategies, offers a broad perspective for Central Asian countries to meet the strategic objective of direct access to seaports and to transform the region into the largest crossroads of transcontinental highways from east to west and from north to south. And we have on our SCO area in our region 15 million kilometers of autobahn and 320,000 kilometers of railroad. And that's why we are more now focused on creating the legal base and rising efficiency of our mechanism of coordination and cooperation. That is why the SCO development strategy until 2025 prioritize the implementation of projects that enhance transport and communication capabilities, develop and modernize infrastructure, establish international multimodal logistics center, and form a network of industrial clusters along transport arteries. Now, it is only this year for 5 months of this year through from China to Europe rises the number of containers transported to Europe through Alashankau-Khargos through Kazakhstan territory 75%. Ensuring the long-term sustainable development of countries and regions along the Belt and Road objectively necessitate increased transport and communication interconnectivity and interconnected infrastructure, which is practically important in overcoming the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure that the audience must be learning a lot from your talk, because this is for the first time, as I said before, that in Pakistan, people are hearing and knowing more about Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the working of the SCO Secretariat. Now, moving on to my next question, sir. As we know that COVID-19 pandemic has hit the entire world and emerged as a serious global challenge. How can the global cooperation help in containing the epidemic, and what is the role of Shanghai Cooperation Organization in the global scenario?
Thank you. The outbreak of a new coronavirus pneumonia has shown how interconnected the world is. This virus is by no means the last global test the world will face. All countries must recognize this and make efforts to cooperate on the principles of mutual trust, joint development, and the strengthening of common goods. In the current situation, along with the objective difficulties of combating the pandemic in each country, the most important task is to overcome the global and regional political confrontation, as well as to abandon nationalist and populist ideas and protectionism. Multilateralism and cooperation are the only way to protect ourselves from global threats and to ensure safe and sustainable development for all. It is important to enhance the status and competence of international mechanism under the auspices of UN so that humanity can unite in the face of future challenges. We attach great importance to the cooperation of SCO member states in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, which has not yet been fully defeated in either national or global framework. The pandemic was a serious test of the viability and strength of the SCO. The member states had not only financial, economic, food, and humanitarian assistance to each other from the first days of spreading pandemic. Our countries and no one state can provide for their security if the spread of the disease continues in neighboring countries. In the current difficult situation, coordination of actions, exchange of information and mutual assistance, considering the foreign ministers of the SCO member states by Russian initiative held video conference and had detailed conversation. They hold a common view that the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic requires a strong, concerted and inclusive multilateral efforts with the central role of the UN system. The SCO advocates effective engagement with the WHO, other international organizations and associations in the fight against coronavirus infection. Meetings of the health ministers and heads of service responsible for the health and epidemiological well-being of countries will be held in the near future. The SCO intends to fully implement the existing mechanism, actively continue to consultation on the topic on the fight against coronavirus, and jointly take decisive measures to maintain security and stability, as well as restore economic activity. What is important to mention that on St. Petersburg SCO summit, we plan to adopt the plan of action for cooperation against spreading infections. It will be the plan which will unite our potential. It will be directed for training staff. It will be focused on commons using our capacity for elaborating some vaccines and to share experiences. And that's why we are Secretariat proposal to establish such consultative council in fighting against infections, and now this in consideration of member states. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, and we are very thankful to you for giving us so much of time. Now we have our last question, sir. That Shanghai Cooperation Organization has grown as a strong regional platform under the guidance of the Shanghai Spirit. But there are still some loopholes and drawbacks, and if these are resolved, it would lead towards a more strengthened Shanghai Cooperation Organization. What are those challenges, and how can they be addressed by the SCO member states?
Thank you. Of course, the SCO is on its own, in which it must solve a variety of problems related to multidisciplinary cooperation. I often say to myself, there is cooperation, there are problems, not cooperation, no problems. I have already mentioned some of them during our interview. The main thing in multilateral diplomacy is to harmonize the interests of all participants in the process and find a compromise. The main security challenge for the organization is the continued fight against international terrorism and extremism and the illicit drug trafficking and weapons, ensuring regional peace and promoting the work of the United Nations and other sought-after international organizations. The existing but currently economic problems of the organizations are the development of road transport and logistic infrastructure, the reduction of trade, custom and other obstacles to the free movement of goods and capital, the creation of banking structures for the implementation of project activities, the development of digital economy, food security, and all this is to improve the well-being of our peoples. In the humanitarian sphere, it is the expansion of the common information space, strengthening of inter-civilizational dialogue, mutual enrichment of cultures, and the improvement of health and education. In summary, I would like to emphasize that the SCO's international credibility has improved significantly in recent years, cementing its status as the leading multilateral structures in the region and the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and we really appreciate the detailed answers which you have given. And at the end, I would, since it is for the first time the people of Pakistan are listening directly to the Secretary General of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So at the end, I would just like you to give a message to the youth of Pakistan, because there are a lot of students who are listening to you today. So what message will you give to people of Pakistan as the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization?
What I can say to the youth of Pakistan, in the summit in the Tsingtao, our leaders accepted special made appeal to youth and adopted program of implementation of this appeal, in which outlined the importance to create special condition for realization of potential of our young generation by uniting their efforts, by creating special union of scientists, by implementing multilateral such projects dedicated to using potential of ICT to create some base for startups. And on Tashkent in summit, in the Council of Head of Governments, Prime Minister of China, Mr. Li Keqiang, announced about implementation this year, the special project, use multilateral business incubator. And now we Secretariat working over this. And that's why we are more focusing our attention to the use of our nations, and Pakistan in particular. We organized it only last year in December with the Alibaba and the Innovate company here in Beijing, special conference dedicated to the potential of digital economy and e-commerce in the SCO area. Because as we studying the experience of China, to this year, the China had 35% of turnover. It is last year data. It is in e-commerce, and at the same time, 55% of them is women who involved in e-commerce. At the same time, a lot of young people in this business, and many of them from rural area. And now they're promoting e-commerce in agricultural area. What is important to say, we now working with the Youth Federation of China to share the experience with China, which have in each university in China. There are several thousand universities. They have special courses of startup for openness for making their own business. Startup course that they special training. Half of the young men, it is perhaps 7 million each year, graduating these universities. Half of them opening their own business. So what is important today to unite the efforts of our youth, and on 24 July this year it will be a special webinar. I will send you, and it will be organized by our youth platform Scholar with the Innovate. This webinar will be led by the head of Innovate. This Innovate, I visited this Innovate. It is in the Silicon Valley of Beijing. It is China, very developed area where concentrated the big IT companies. And this webinar will be at 24. I will send you. I don't know how it will be looked at. If not, I will show you. I don't know how it will be possible to see through it, but I will nevertheless send for spreading it is. So today is time for youth. When we were the youth, it was difficult to send letter to each other because it was more dependent to the work of post. Today it is internet. I remember I studied in Moscow '88 in Police Academy, and my son. In newspaper was published some article about American Peace Corps and some organization which helped to find the partners, friends. And I wanted my son to study English. He studied in 7th class, and we wrote the letter to this through newspaper, Soviet newspaper in this time, Izvestia. It was published. 2 months this letter went to New York, to America, and then 2 months it came back. 4 months for communications. Today it is very easy, and at the same time, today is more opportunity to create your destiny and your future, by knowledge. That's why we try to focus attention of our youth to the modern information technology. I visited Pakistan by invitation of your center, and we visited. Mr. Akram, we visited university. There was special center for big data, the supercomputers. There were supercomputers where Pakistan has the big potential, and use of Pakistan can achieve the high level of development, and there is all, and they should be more active in our youth platform, in the Scholar, and many Pakistani students studying here in China very active with us. We highly appreciate. And now the Pakistan Youth Organization became the part of Council of Youth of SCO, and I'm sure that we can join the potential of our youth organization to make it is beneficial for our youth people. It is time. I remember when I began to study my English in '91, I worked at Chief of Criminal Police. After visiting United States, we have visited to study the experience in this time. It was time of perestroika in Soviet time. And I could not find enough literature. I take from hotels some leaflets which put it there in an entrance. Today it is not needed. It is your internet, any language, any knowledge which you would like to have, you can do it very easily. And that's why I'm encouraging young people to be more active. Some assessment of made in the Middle East, and for example, it is I read recently, and Latin America, 80% young people spending time in social networks. It is not bad when you're sharing your experience, but you losing your time when you should focus on such platforms which can help you to raise your potential and to raise the potential of your country, to promote your country for tourism. Now is such program platform TikTok. I see that some Chinese young lady, she promoting foods. She have 49 million followers. So she doing good money for this. It is now, I remember when we were students, we would like to earn some money. We went to some area, to a railroad area to take goods to earn, and we cleaned wagons and so on. It was, there was not other choice. But today it is, you see this as promoting, for example, Pakistan has a huge touristic potential. From Mughal Empire time, from Babur's times, it is very attractive. And in other in the environment, it's the same attractive, and a lot of to promote for export of goods of agricultural. Such Alibaba made special Taobao program. They made Taobao villages in each and promoting 1,000 farmers' goods. First steps they made on national level. Today they're doing on international level. So you see, it is how big potential for this. So I think this very important for our youth to be very in contact to each other and study good experience and not lose the time. Use it very efficiently. Study from each other the history, culture, and we should be proud our countries. We have our SCO area, huge advantages in Middle Ages. Time coming back. This Silk Road reviving again. And our ancestors on Silk Road made a big contribution to world civilization. And young generation can do the same for benefit of our people, of our countries, and all Euro-Asian continent. This is my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, and we are really thankful to you for your time today. I'm sure that after this interview, people in Pakistan are much more wise about SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, its Secretariat, and its working. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.